Michael McDowell in the house. What's up, McDriver?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right, buddy. I don't know. We joked about this a little earlier. Should we say second at Watkins Glen or maybe first in class? I think they should have a backup trophy for guys like you.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, it's kind of funny. When I was getting out of the car, I saw Justin Marks, and I was like, hey, before you brought that guy over here, that'd have been a win for me today. SUG obviously is the guy to beat right now, and he's been so dominant. And nothing short of spectacular what he's doing on the racetrack, and his team's executing really well. And I feel like we did a good job, and I felt like we still have a few things that we have to improve so that we can contend with him. I do think it's possible. I don't think that we're so far off that we can't close that gap, but it's definitely been a challenge.
Were there points on Sunday where you thought you might have something for him?
I would say yes and no. The reason I say that is there was times that I could pace him, or there was times that I could close the gap slightly for a lap or two. But then it felt like he would just pick the pace back up, And a lot of that had to do with the tire management on Sunday. We saw a lot of fall off on Saturday of the tire, and, I don't think any of us knew exactly how the race was going to play out on Sunday, whether that fall off would get better. And it got slightly better, but it was still pretty severe to where you weren't pushing it 100% really ever. I don't think there was one lap in the race that I pushed it 100% because you knew that you were going to pay the price on tires. And so it felt like he was pacing himself off of whoever was behind him, and most of the race it was me or Connor. And he would just keep just enough gap. So there was times like I felt like, oh, okay, I'm going to push a little harder here and I'll close the gap. And then there was times that he would just pull right back away. So I don't think so. I think he had a little bit more pace than us. But it's so hard when you look at that last run, because that last run, I came one lap earlier than he did. So I had a little bit fresher tire for a lap. Mm-hmm. And I closed the gap down to about 2 seconds. And then really him and I stayed there as we carved through the field up until the last 10 laps. And the last 10 laps, I had a few tough breaks in traffic. I was trying to get around Ross and Denny Hamlin. I think they were having some dispute on the racetrack, and I happened to be the middle referee that caught the bad end of it. And he pulled a few more second gap on me, and then it just kind of stayed the same there the rest of the way. So I never felt like I was close enough to really put pressure on him. But any time that I would, it felt like he had a little bit left in the bag.
Having spent a considerable amount of time in his neighborhood on Sunday, either in hot pursuit or in front of him for a while based on strategy, do you have any idea where he's finding that speed? I know watching in qualifying, his speed through the bus stop was like 5 to 7 car lengths more than anybody else could muster. Is that it? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah. So I think that, I saw the same thing that you all saw, obviously, in the bus stop and qualifying. I think I was up 3 or 4 car lengths going into the bus stop and was behind 2 or 3 car lengths when he got to the exit. So there was a lot of speed gain there for him, for sure. And that's been a strength for him at Watkins Glen in general. And, when you watch it as a driver, obviously I put in a good lap, but not good enough to get the pole. And so you go back and you analyze it, and I'm like, man, I should have just went in there with more speed and been more committed. And, you convince yourself that that you could do it, or your car can do it, But then in the race, the first 10 or 15 laps when I was behind him, I just could not get through the bus stop as well as him. My car just didn't recover quite as good over the curbs as his did. And so that did help. That gave me, something for us to work on and to really focus on for the next time we go back there. I think San Diego and Sonoma are very different. But I do feel like going back to Watkins Glen, we know what we need to work on to close the gap. And I think we can close the gap. Time will tell, but, I think that with Sonoma and San Diego coming up, I feel good about our road course package. I feel like I really do feel like we were the car to beat last year at Chicago, and I think San Diego will be somewhat similar to that. And we've been really strong at Sonoma, so I'm looking forward to the challenge. I mean, we all know that who we're chasing and what we are trying to accomplish, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's no question about that. Little different race this time around. Scattered a few tire packs here and there that we've never seen them before at the Glen. And you're also working with a little more horsepower than we've had, at least in recent years. How impactful were they, all in all?
The horsepower was for sure, especially with the tire fall off, like we talked about. You were definitely modulating the throttle off the corner and trying not to spin the tires and trying not to punish them. So I felt like that was an actual decent change that you could feel. The tire packs I thought were good. I mean, I know that everyone has kind of an opinion about it. For me, selfishly, I like when you have to be tidier and not as wild and jumping the curbs and, being 7 or 8 lines off of the actual driving line. I like when the drivers are sort of forced to be in a tighter box. It's an advantage for me. I'm not sure it changed the racing much, but for me, I liked it.
So leave it alone for next time? Don't mess with it any further, do you think?
I think that we could probably do it a little bit better in turn one to make it more, I don't know what the right word is, aesthetically pleasing, right? Like just having those tire bundles, I don't think it looks great. I feel like we could probably do a little bit better with how we do the wall. Some different ideas of how we can do that. So I'm not really sure. I thought the carousel was fine. There's probably some tweaks there just to make it a little straighter so it didn't taper as much, but it definitely served the purpose and didn't hurt anybody's day. I think that's probably the biggest thing is, how do we keep the cars in bounds without causing chaos? And I do feel like it accomplished that.
Michael McDowell is with us, driver of the number 71 Chevrolet for Spire Motorsports, hot off a second-place finish Sunday at the Glen. 21st in points now, minus 58 to the cut line, if my math is correct, and sometimes it is. Charlotte next weekend marks the halfway point of the regular season. I don't know that it's getting late yet, but it's not as early as it used to be. Have you still got time to make a run at this chase?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not worried about the time. I mean, I'm frustrated with the points deficit that we're in just because we had such a bad stretch there. But I think that just goes to show, 4 weeks of not great runs really hurt us. So 4 weeks of good runs will put us right back in the game. The cut line is a little bit, I don't want to say deceiving because we had a good race, but obviously SVG had a great race and he's the cut line. So the cut line went up, right? And I think that, we closed the gap to the other cars, not to SVG, but to the other cars. And so, yeah, I feel very much like we're still in the game to fight for a playoff spot. We just have to clean up, what we threw away a lot of points over the last month. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And so, but our cars have speed at Spire, so I feel good about that and feel like we can, string some good races together and, maximize, the tracks that we know are really strong for us and put ourselves back in the fight. It's going to be a fight. We didn't make it easy on ourselves. We know that, but it never was going to be easy. So I just feel like we got to go out there and do our job and the points will take care of itself over the next few weeks.
Off to the Monster Mile this weekend. Dover for the All-Star race. We learned this week that it's resin from top to bottom in the corners this time around. We've never, not in my memory, run this thing, certainly not at Dover, not in the daylight, and now resin top to bottom. Do you have any idea what to expect after all that?
No, I mean, we're all guessing, right?
Wow.
Nashville did something similar with the resin from, bottom to top, and I felt like the track widened out and took rubber, and so that it's a data point. It's not a perfect data point, but I think it's a concrete track data point as far as that goes. So I do feel like there's some, I don't want to say similarities, but I do feel like it wasn't a big risk by doing the resin top to bottom. We'll see how the racing plays out. I mean, I think more than anything is the new rules package for Dover in particular, less downforce, more power, all those things are probably the bigger variables than the track treatment. And then obviously the format is going to be wild. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, one of the fun things about this weekend is we're bringing RCA back to NASCAR. So excited about having them on board for the All-Star race and a couple more before the end of the year. And yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. All-Star is like one of those weekends where you can be aggressive. You can, be aggressive with setups and driving style and kind of push yourself, knowing that it's not going to cost you, points. But it's also still some pressure on the line because you want to get into the big race for us and want to have a shot at $1 million. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a fun week.
I don't even have to ask Jeff Dickerson to know that he would be in favor of that $1 million paycheck for sure. I know you go into every race wanting to win, but is there a certain part of this that qualifies as a testing opportunity too?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the package itself probably takes away a little bit more of that opportunity of, apples to apples. Like, you're not going to learn much for Charlotte this weekend in Dover with that aero package.
Right.
But I do feel like, as a race team, you're always pushing your setups, whether it be camber and air pressure and heights, and you're always trying to find, hey, where is that threshold? And this gives you a little bit more freedom to explore those. And then also, too, having a 90-minute practice session where you can change springs, you can change setup, you can work on your car. You're not locked into that impound, rules that we typically have. That'll help, too. So I think that we just got to utilize our time efficiently and learn as much as we can.
Sounds like a plan. Look forward to watching it happen for sure. Appreciate the time. Great job at Watkins Glen, and we'll look for more of the same at Dover this weekend. Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you.